Vatican City is the world's smallest sovereign nation. At 0.27 square meter in size, it is home to about 700 to 800 people, one of whom is the Pope. The Vatican City is the home of the Catholics. It may be small in size, but in terms of population, they have about 1.3 billion members worldwide, which is more twice the size of the United States population. It is one of the biggest religions in the world.
There is a question I'd like to ask you first here, in the office of His Holiness. Do you believe in God, sir?
For about 1800 years, the popes were not just the head of the Catholic Church or the spiritual head of a great religion. They were also kings, Pope kings, which had a secular empire with thousands of square miles of land, including having their own armies, utilities, and every other thing an empire possesses. The popes were the kings of the Vatican. Popes believed that God had chosen them to reign over all other leaders of the world. During the time of the Pope kings, the Vatican controlled more than 15,000 square miles of land, called the Papal States, which is more bigger than the tiny area the Vatican City occupies today, half a square meter. The 15,000 square miles of land which the Vatican controlled then was indeed useful because they built palaces and also luxurious courts all over Europe. And these luxurious courts and palaces were really expensive to maintain, so they had to devise a means to properly maintain these palaces and luxurious courts. So in order for them to continue enjoying their luxurious and fancy palaces, they decided to start taxing the people they rule over. And just like the corruption ravaging our government today, the taxes went to maintaining the Pope King's luxurious lifestyles and also to those who swore loyalty to him, the cardinals. The idea of taxing the Vatican City as of that time was really a huge source of revenue for the Pope. The Pope had started taxing Papal States, charging fees to trade and to do businesses, selling most of their agricultural produce and also profiting from the then means of production. But none of that was enough. It wasn't generating enough revenue for them. Well, not yet. The Pope needed a new way to make money fast, so he and his subordinates came up with an exclusively brilliant plan. The natural resources they had started making money from and also the taxes would soon run out. But what if the Pope and his loyal subordinates had something to sell that was extremely valuable to the Vatican citizens? Something that they could create themselves and also something that they would never run out of. They would be able to make an infinite amount of cash. Well, the plan was simply simple. Since the Pope was God's direct representative on earth and he had millions of members in his church, what if he could start selling forgiveness at a cheap rate? Since the people believe highly in the Pope, they wouldn't question his decision to sell forgiveness, but instead, they would be highly happy. The idea was to sell something called indulgences, a ticket sold by the Catholic to people who commit sin. And definitely all Vaticans commit sin, including the Pope, but since it was his plan, he never needed to buy any indulgence ticket. The indulgence ticket was to reduce the punishment you were supposed to get in hell for your sins, and it sounded nice to the Vaticans of that time. After all, years of disobedience to God's rule have made people live in constant fear of God's wrath, and the idea that you could reduce your punishment by just buying a ticket was really fascinating, and the Vaticans embraced it wholeheartedly. Small sins were cheaper to get indulgences for, while bigger sins were obviously more expensive. The selling of indulgences went on for more than 1,000 years. It generated a whole lot of revenue for them. But all that came to an end in the year 1870 when the Pope lost his empire. An Italian nationalist who was trying to unify Italy took over the Pope's massive lands and left the Pope with a small postage stamp-sized parcel of land, which we know today as the Vatican City. The then 15,000 square meters of land was reduced to 0.27 square meters. The popes believed that they were born to rule over all men, whether great or small, rich or poor, Christian or not, and right now they are currently scheming out ways to make that possible.